Hi, in this lesson we're going to step through the phases of Agile Codeless. There are four major phases to learn about. The first is scoping. In the scoping phase we explore how does an application help to get a job done better? How does the enterprise benefit? And how are the capability needs of stakeholders translated into applications features? In the second phase, which is the design phase, we explore how do you create an application in workshops and iterate the design? How do business analysts manage publishing? And how do they iterate and user test the applications they're building? The deployment phase is typically managed by your IT architect or administrator, and it's about preparing the application for release, making sure it's properly documented, there is useful help information, and also any technical requirements for scaling, security, and replication have been dealt with. Once you've deployed your application, then you move into the operate review phase. And during that phase, IT administrators will monitor and report on user activities, they'll analyse the performance of applications, and they'll recommend any improvements. So our first activity is to look at what job is this application helping a stakeholder to do better. And to do that, we use a methodology called outcome-driven innovation. And the purpose of this phase is to qualify the function of the application and what it needs to do. Outcome-driven innovation is an innovation process developed by Anthony Ulrich, and it was later popularized by Clayton M. Christensen, Professor of Business Administration at the Harvard Business School. It's built around the belief that people hire products and services to get a job done better. So the obvious question we need to ask is, who might want to hire your application to get a job done better? The way we do this is to create job statements. A job statement describes a job, but it's done in a particular way. It includes an action verb, an object of the action, and a contextual qualifier. So an example would be teach the reading of English language text. It's best to avoid describing mechanisms or platforms when describing your job. Otherwise you compromise the clarity of what actually is the job that needs to be done. So for example, if you included a toothbrush in a description of a job to clean teeth, then the presumption is the only way to clean teeth is with a toothbrush, which isn't strictly true. Designers will analyse the jobs done by role holders. Then they'll seek to discover how the job can be done better for each role. For any activity, there may be several role types, and therefore it's necessary to interview a number of people performing each of the role types to ask them what jobs do they do, what activities take the time, what inhibits the job from being done well, and what constraints prevent them from accomplishing the job as well as it could be done. And the outcome of this stage is an article that qualifies the job and its attributes, such as the role users, the job stages, the outcomes, the constraints, and also a measure of which of the corrective solutions deliver the best outcome and are of most importance to stakeholders. Now you don't need to adopt these methods to use in Canvas to build applications, but we do recommend it. Innovation value analysis is a way to place a strategic value on a software development exercise. Our innovation value management approach is built on the principles of Blue Ocean strategy, developed by W. Chan Kim and René Malberg, who published their findings in a Harvard Business School document in 2005. Blue Ocean Strategy argues the most impactful innovations happen when a company's actions favourably affect both its cost structure and its value proposition to buyers, where cost savings are made by eliminating or reducing the factors an industry competes on, and buyer value is lifted by raising and creating elements the industry's never offered. Additionally, over time, costs are further reduced as economies scale due to the high sales volumes that superior value generates. The design analysis phase is about getting hold of the information you need prior to commencing a design workshop with stakeholders. Preparing a prototype design not only requires a fundamental understanding of the job that people are hiring the intended application to perform and the roles that contribute to that job, it also requires a more fundamental picture of the stakeholder user groups, the records that you'll need to create, the processes that users will follow, the reports they'll want to see, and any settings and related tables they'll need to reference. In the same way as job worth analysis, the insights required for design analysis are captured through interviews with application stakeholders and by benchmarking existing applications or competitive applications. The purpose of design analysis, then, is to document the attributes of an application so that a prototype design can be easily determined. The outputs of this phase are presented in the form of a case file. From these insights, a prototype can be formed. A storyboard articulates the stages of a process lifecycle. It's normal for design workshops to be preempted by the development of a straw man prototype that the business analysts can do themselves, armed with the information that comes from this analysis. The information gained through the job definition and discovery phase forms the basis of the prototype design. And remember, within Canvas, there's no need for the prototype design to be perfect on the first attempt. The whole point of design workshops is to create something, let stakeholders review it, and then adapt it, until everyone's happy with the end product. The purpose of a design workshop is to create an application from the insights gathered during the planning phase and with the active participation of application users and stakeholders. The scope, value and attributes of the application are pre-agreed from the outputs of the planning phase. A prototype may be produced prior to the workshop to provide a starting point for debate and review, or it could be created there and then. A design workshop involves a business analyst and various stakeholders and contributors. The workshop's led by the designer who performs the building activities, each canvas presented to participants who discuss the suitability of the design and provide feedback. It takes the form of a design forum where the initial prototype is debated by participants and changes are made iteratively to the design. Some of the changes may be made immediately, while others will be done later. The designer iterates the application design until all feedback has been adopted or acknowledged as not being appropriate. Where the design needs considerable iteration, it's not uncommon for the workshop to be halted and reconvened once the bulk of the change requests have been applied. Once all the changes have been made, the product is released for user testing. The output of this stage is a complete application that's ready for user testing. Now this is the point that in Canvas comes in. You're going to produce a live wireframe, which is a prototype of the application that you're developing in the workshop that can be used straight afterwards. Live wireframing uses live data, typically the customer data or client data that will be used for real in the application when it's deployed. Using in Canvas, users and stakeholders can be fully engaged during a workshop while the application is being developed in real time. The absence of code from the design environment And the use of placeholders for design elements and data logic links makes it easy for workshop participants to envision the end result. One-click publishing means the outcomes of the workshop are visible and can be reviewed as a live system. The last step in design and deployment is publishing. The publishing process using in Canvas is painless because it's a one-click activity. But publishing an application does not mean that it's released. Applications may undergo several rounds of user testing and iteration before being signed off for general release. Published applications may still lack documentation and help notes that will be created as users become satisfied with a version of the application. Publishing is the point where for business analysts their process ends, but for IT administrators and architects it's only just begun. What we'll do now is walk through the last remaining parts of the software development lifecycle to see what happens once a business analyst has published their application. Let's just talk about user testing. Within Canvas, because most of the coding is done by the system, you're not testing code. What you're testing is the suitability of the application and how users respond to its use. The nature of UAT testing for a situational application is one of further iteration that extends design into a quasi-operational or alpha test mode. Requests for changes by users are formalized, and all requests are logged and assigned by the designer. Once business analysts have completed the work on the design and iteration of the application, then it's for the IT analysts and administrators to make the application ready for general release. The desired outcomes identified in the planning phase have to be met in full. Change requests identified in the development phase have to be completed and no further change requests be received. There needs to be a general agreement between the stakeholders and the business analyst that the application has reached a point where it's as good as it's ever going to get. The application is appropriately documented and can be realistically supported by IT help desk staff. The output of this phase is a final released application. Moving to the operations step, even after general release, users will often make change requests for applications they use. How these actions are delivered will vary according to the design of the improvement and IT functions within an organisation. Ordinarily, business analysts will be appointed to support specific processes or parts of a business, and they will retain responsibility for developing applications and supporting them in their allocated area. Business processes and released applications should undergo continuous analysis for their effectiveness and suitability. It's in the nature of business that nothing stays the same for long, and so a review cycle is necessary. The purpose of the analysis stage is to identify which processes or applications could be improved through iteration and new development. Understanding which applications are performing or are not performing can be done using the application performance toolset that's provided by Canvas. Analysis data can be aggregated using an application like Canvas Casebook or just a spreadsheet. From time to time, business analysts will receive change requests. The purpose of the review phase is to make recommendations to improve applications as a result of any analysis conducted on current and future systems. Recommendations are logged using an application like in Canvas or a spreadsheet. when it comes to demands for new applications. It's worth remembering that Canvas is designed to continuously improve your enterprise platform. And for that reason, you can always expect to receive new requests for changes to the applications you've authored. But don't worry, Canvas is so easy to use that you can change your applications as they're needed. Join me in the next lesson to learn about layout, look and feel, and site design. I'll see you there.